8. Dominic Barragan. Dominic Barragan and his girlfriend had a rocky on and off again relationship. The 25-year-old man from Manchester claimed to be a devout Christian and used religion as a form of control over his partner. But the young woman broke things off for good back in 2016 when she decided to no longer tolerate Barragan or his drug abuse. A fight between the two got physical, leaving her scared and physically injured. She went to stay with her mother, but Barragan couldn't accept that they were over and continued to contact her. One day, he broke into her house when she wasn't there and snooped through her things. When he found evidence that his ex-girlfriend had been intimate with another man, he flew into a rage and set her house on fire. By the time firefighters got the flames under control, the home had major damage. Barragan turned himself into police and initially denied any wrongdoing, but eventually fessed up to the crime. His lawyer told the court that Barragan had limited experience with romantic relationships and that he suffers from many family and emotional issues. But this was no excuse for terrorizing his ex and burning her house down. Barragan ultimately pleaded guilty to assault and arson and received a 3-year prison sentence for his actions. 7. Caitlin Conley. Caitlin Conley began working at Dr. Mary Yoder's chiropractic office in Whitesboro, New York, and dated the doctor's son, Adam. The couple also had an iffy relationship, but Caitlin and Mary seemed to get along well and managed to keep their interactions professional at work. One day in 2015, Mary suddenly became extremely ill. She was rushed to the hospital, where she went into cardiac arrest several times before passing away at just 60 years old. Her death came as a shock to her loved ones, who described her lifestyle as healthy and said that she had no major health issues that they knew of. Authorities also found Mary's death suspicious, so they started investigating. They discovered that Mary had been poisoned with a chemical named colchicine, which is normally used for treating gout patients. Detectives initially suspected the victim's husband, William Yoder. They became even more suspicious when the widower started dating Mary's sister a few months after her death. William maintained his innocence though, and was soon cleared of any wrongdoing despite his strange new relationship. Investigators then shifted their focus to Adam, who was known for having a massive temper. Their suspicions peaked when they found a bottle of colchicine in his vehicle. An anonymous letter they received also blamed Adam for the murder, but he quickly proved that he was hundreds of miles away during the day his mother died. Detectives then looked towards Caitlin Conley, who had a history of going to extreme lengths to get revenge against Adam after their many breakups. They found evidence that Conley had ordered the colchicine online and had even poisoned Adam in the past. She was convicted of manslaughter after her first trial ended in a hung jury and is now serving a 23-year prison sentence. Conley had initially admitted to writing the mysterious letter accusing Adam of murdering Mary, but is now claiming the confession was coaxed out of her. Caitlin continues to maintain her innocence and is fighting tirelessly to overturn her case's conviction. 6. Sophie George. A 23-year-old man from East Sussex, England, had a close call with death in 2020 after picking up his ex-girlfriend, 18-year-old Sophie George. She first ordered him to drive somewhere, where she picked up 2 shopping bags. When the man asked what was going on and why she was acting weird, Sophie allegedly pulled a knife on him. A struggle broke out as the victim pried the weapon out of his attacker's hand and threw it into a bush. He then called the police when the crazed woman bit his finger to the bone. Officers searched the shopping bag Sophie had grabbed during the suspicious stop she asked her boyfriend to make. They found a heap of evidence, including detailed plans for what seemed like a murder plot, along with a checklist containing steps for covering up the crime, changing identities, and starting a new life. The cops also found a kit with bleach, rubber gloves, pliers, a headlamp, garbage bags, masks, a shower cap, a scrub brush, and more. Prosecutors accused Sophie of plotting to torture and kill her ex-lover in a twisted revenge scheme. She pleaded guilty to attempted murder and a weapons charge and was sentenced to 13 years in prison for her insane behavior. 5. Eric Locke. When 31-year-old single mother Sonia Blunt went to the Plaza Hotel in Talent Island in 2014, she expected to meet a man she'd been speaking with online. Instead, she came face-to-face with her ex-boyfriend Eric Locke, who'd lured her with a fake social media account. Locke and Blute started out as friends and then dated for a brief period, but Sonia was quick to break things off when Locke began showing concerning displays of jealousy. She had been in abusive relationships before, so when Locke called her a slut because some men looked at her in a bar one night through no fault of her own, she knew the mistreatment would only get worse if she kept seeing him. Locke tried persuading Sonia to give him another chance, but she kept refusing. He sent her hundreds of messages, forcing her to block him on social media. Sonia moved on with her life until it was senselessly taken from her in a hotel room, where Locke strangled her to death. He argued to receive a diminished responsibility ruling in court, claiming he was suffering from mental illness at the time he killed Sonia. But the jury didn't buy it and unanimously found him guilty. He's currently serving out a life sentence. 4. Andrew Bradshaw. In late 2021, authorities charged Cambridge, Maryland Mayor Andrew Bradshaw with 50 counts of distributing revenge porn after he allegedly put up photos of his ex on Reddit. The state prosecutor's office accused the 32-year-old of posting the images under multiple usernames, containing variations of the woman's actual name and birthday. Documents also claim the post contained racial slurs and other derogatory language. Bradshaw originally faced up to 2 years in prison and a fine of up to $5,000 for each count, according to prosecutors. In a statement, State Prosecutor Charlton T. Howard reassured the public that his office is committed to pursuing offenders who are accused of serious crimes like revenge porn, which he described as a serious breach of trust and an outright invasion of privacy. He also preached his commitment to protect victims of those who abuse their positions of power and trust. Authorities were made aware of Bradshaw's alleged crimes after the victim found her private photos online and reported it. She said Bradshaw was the only person she'd send the pictures to, so he quickly rose to the top of the suspect list. He resigned from his political position and is no longer the mayor of Cambridge. He also pleaded guilty to 5 counts of distributing revenge porn after his failed relationship with the victim. The resolution came as part of a plea deal between Bradshaw and the prosecutors, resulting in suspended time in prison, $5,000 in fines, $750 in restitution, and 100 hours of required community service. 3. Majid Movaheedi. Majid Movaheedi started stalking Amina Bahrami in 2004 after they met as students studying at the Azad University in Iran. He proposed to the young woman many times and continued to bother her, even after she turned him down countless times. Police failed to take any action when they were told about the ongoing harassment, leaving Bahrami to handle the situation all on her own. And when Movaheedi realized he would probably never change her mind, his behavior escalated to violence. Bahrami was walking home from work one day when Movaheedi came up to her and threw acid on her face. The woman screamed in pain as a crowd gathered, unsure of how to help. She was left disfigured and blinded by the attack, which Movaheedi bragged about in its aftermath while his victim fought for her life. 4 years after the attack, a court ruled in favor of an eye-for-an-eye punishment, popularly known in traditional Islamic courts as qisas. Bahrami was given the opportunity to be present, while a doctor stood over Movaheedi and poured a few drops of acid into his eye, so he might know a fraction of the pain his victim felt. Although she had been blinded in both eyes, the punishment only allowed for one of her attacker's eyes to be damaged. The day finally came in 2011, but Bahrami had a change of heart while officials were counting down the seconds before they planned to make Movaheedi unconscious and pour the acid. At the very last moment, she stopped them. She later told The Guardian that Movaheedi fell at her feet in complete gratitude. Up until that point, he'd expressed basically no remorse for what he'd done, and had even called for Bahrami's eyes to be gouged out completely to make sure she could no longer see. Bahrami told Movaheedi to leave and to never say her name again. She later wondered whether she made the right choice as acid attacks continued throughout Iran. Perhaps if she'd carried on with the punishment, it would have discouraged at least a few of the attacks by reminding perpetrators what might happen if they were caught. To add insult to injury, Movaheedi was released from prison without compensating Bahrami's family, despite the court ordering him to do so. But Bahrami has since moved on with her life and to another country, where she's undergone dozens of reconstructive surgeries for her facial injuries. 2. Liam Bergman. 19-year-old Liam Bergman was a student at Berkeley High School in California when he made headlines back in 2021 for threatening revenge porn against multiple women. Authorities first heard of the situation when some victims reported to Berkeley officials that they were being targeted by a hacker who broke into their Snapchat accounts and tried to extort money out of them for their intimate photos. When it became clear that this was a serious problem, law enforcement took over the investigation, and shortly after that, the FBI got involved with things. They traced the activity to Bergman and obtained a search warrant. They found evidence of blackmail, as well as dozens of women's login credentials and personal information, like birth dates, home addresses, and more. Detectives also uncovered highly illegal content, including hundreds of inappropriate images and videos. The evidence suggested that the crime started as far back as August 2020. While it was unclear just how many women Bergman knew personally, investigators suspected that he deliberately targeted his victims. An officer took him into custody after seeing him jogging in his neighborhood and recognizing him as a wanted individual. Authorities charged Bergman with over a dozen misdemeanors, including distributing images of intimate body parts with the intent to cause distress, and multiple felonies including identity theft, accessing computer systems he was unauthorized to use, distributing photos and videos as revenge porn, and more. According to the most recent update, Bergman's attorney had filed motions to have 4 out of 6 felony counts dismissed altogether. Because he was an adult when the alleged crimes happened, it's very possible he'll receive prison time if convicted. 1. Todd Mullis. Police rushed to a property in Earlville, Iowa one day in 2018 after getting a call from a local farmer named Todd Mullis who claimed he'd found his wife Amy laying unresponsive in a shed. He told the 911 operator that it looked like she'd been in some kind of freak accident and that she had no pulse. Mullis later told police that the couple's son had found Amy with a corn rake in her chest and that she must have somehow fallen on the tool. The son removed the rake from his mother's body and they rushed her to hospital, where she was soon pronounced dead. An emergency room doctor noticed that Amy's injuries seemed to tell a different story than what Mullis had claimed. She had 6 puncture wounds, yet the pitchfork she'd supposedly fallen on only had 4 spikes. Detectives looked deeper and learned that Amy and Todd had a tough marriage. The couple had tied the knot 14 years before and had 3 kids together, but at some point Amy became unhappy with Todd's controlling ways. She had an affair close to home, cheating on her husband with an employee who worked at their farm. In the meantime, she told her friend she was afraid to leave Todd, who was firmly opposed to getting a divorce. When questioned by investigators after the death, Todd initially denied knowing anything about Amy's affair, but people who knew the couple claimed he'd caught his wife in the act. The couple stopped sharing a bed after this, and Amy warned her friends that if anything ever happened to her, Todd was responsible. It was almost as if she knew her life would soon be over. A search of the family's home found incriminating evidence pointing toward Todd as the likely culprit of his wife's death. He was found guilty of first-degree murder and challenged the conviction, but the decision was upheld. Todd is currently serving a life sentence without the possibility of parole and continues to claim innocence. Thanks for watching. Have you ever gotten revenge on someone? Let us know in the comments below and don't forget to subscribe. See you next time. Bye.